So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a bias knit scarf. It's called a bias knit scarf because instead of knitting it straight like we normally do, it's knit on the bias or the diagonal. So you end up with these triangular shaped sections that are all joined together. You can use any kind of yarn with this and any size needle. Just use the size needle recommended by the yarn that you're using. I prefer using color change yarn with this because you get these cool looking color block sections, or if it's like a self-striping yarn, you get these contrasting stripes going in different directions when you knit it up. So let's look at how to do this. So it starts with this triangular section on the bottom here, and it's built from one stitch that expands out to get this first little section here. So let's take a look at that. So as I said, you're going to cast on just one singular stitch. So make your slip knot. And there's your stitch. That's the very first one of this entire pattern. So the pattern starts by taking this one stitch and knitting into the front and back. So we're going to knit, let me zoom in a bit here so you can see. So we're going to insert the needle and knit one stitch like we normally do. Then before we pull that off, we're going to twist around, put the needle through the back of that same stitch, wrap it again, and create a second stitch. So we've just increased from one stitch to two stitches. Then we're going to turn. And this first section is pretty simple. You're going to knit into the front and back of every first stitch of every row. So we're going to knit to the front and the back of this one. And then the remaining stitches on the row just get knit straight across. So you just keep doing this until your scarf is as wide as you want it to be. Now, you'll know the width by measuring one of these sides, because we're building, we started from this one stitch here and we're building diagonally this way, but the flat side is going to be how wide the scarf is. So measure this. Once that's as wide as you want it to be, you're ready to start building our next section, which is going to be triangular piece that is built diagonally, and as it grows, it's going to grow this direction, or excuse me, grow this direction diagonally, and it will attach itself to the previous triangle that we just knitted here. So I'll show you how we do that. So once this is, that's the width that you want it to be, which we're going to call it that for now. Then we are ready to start our next section. So this next section is fairly simple. It's a little different from the previous triangle that we did, but we're going to use some of the same concepts. So you're going to start like we did before by knitting into the front and back of that first stitch. Okay. But then you're going to slip knit the next two stitches here. Knit those together. And once you do that, you're going to stop. We're going to be kind of working in short rows here. So you're going to stop that, you're going to turn. Now on the back side of this, you're just going to knit every stitch. We're working in garter stitch here, so every side is knit. All right, once we're back to the beginning, we turn again. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to knit into the front and back of that first stitch. And then we're going to knit to the gap. Now where we stopped and turned before, it creates kind of a gap in our stitches here. So we're going to knit until we get to that gap. So there's that one. There's the stitch before the gap. So we're going to slip knit across that gap. So slip the one before the gap and the one after the gap, and then knit those two together to the back. And then stop and turn. And our rows are going to grow by 1 stitch across each time. So we started with just knitting the first 3, and then we're moving on to 4, and then we'll add another stitch of 5 by slipping knit. And that's what's going to join us to that previous triangle that we knit. So once we're back to the beginning, once again, we will knit into the front and back. Knit until we get to the gap, and then slip, knit across the gap. Keep doing that until we have used up all the stitches that are on this row. So I will do that, and then we'll come back here and I'll show you how to finish off this scarf. Okay, so here is what we have. We started out with this triangle here with the 1 stitch that grew this way. Then we built this other section that started with a stitch here and grew this way. Now if I wanted to continue this out to make a scarf, once I use up that last slip knit stitch here, then I would just start this triangular section over again. I would do a knit into the front and back, slip knit the next 2, turn, knit back, then keep doing that, slip knitting at the gap each time until I worked all the way across and made a whole new triangular section. And when I finish that one, then I can start a new one. And it just continues to build off of each other. And you get separate sections of triangular sections until your scarf is as long as you want it to be. So once your scarf is long enough and you're ready to finish it off, here's how you do that. We're basically going to kind of do the opposite of what we did to build this first triangle. Instead of increasing each row, we're going to decrease 1 each row. So to do this, if we've finished our last triangular section, we're going to slip knit the first 2 stitches together, and then go ahead and knit all the way across the row. So once you've knit across the row, you turn, and then slip knit that first stitch, or those first 2 stitches of that next row. So we're going to slip, and put together through the back loop, and then knit all the way across the row. And then our rows will progressively get smaller until they're down to just the 1 single stitch again. And that is our final stitch. So then we just bind that off. And of course, this would be much longer if it was a scarf, but you have your initial corner here and your final corner here. And you see how this was originally a triangle, but then we added this squared off corner to it that's not going in the opposite direction, it's still continuing in the same direction as the others, but it gives you a pretty cool effect, especially when you use self-striping yarn for this. So